Hey there, this is John from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to a special edition of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch, where we're going to focus on the Modern format. We're going to look at the top 10 coldest cards right now in Modern, as well as the top 10 hottest cards in the format. And there's just so much happening right now in Modern. I mean, a few weeks ago, we had two huge events with two GPs that really showed off the diversity of the format. And on top of that, we have a little set coming out this Friday, Modern Masters 2017, perhaps you've heard of it, that is going to bring a lot of cards into the marketplace, and even pre-order prices, although they're probably still a little high at this point, are more affordable than their previous version counterparts, which means a lot of players are already thinking about what kind of decks they can build going forward and being able to diversify the decks that they can bring to a Modern tournament, and that goes a long way for the health of the format. So you're seeing this impacted directly in the market. Now, in today's video, we're not going to talk about Modern Masters 2017 prices at all, because we're still in that pre-release time where prices can change drastically, and I don't want to put out information that's going to change by the time I upload the video or anything like that. So we will do another special edition of the Market Watch next week, probably midweek, to look and see where the prices are once they stabilize a little bit. I'll also have a couple boxes to open on the channel as well, so we can see how we do. But having said that, quickly before we get started, if you check out the description below, you'll find a couple ways to help support us, one of which is the Patreon page. And if you support us through Patreon, you'll find that we have a whole brand new list of goals and rewards, and we're very close to one of our next goals. So check that out. I'm very excited about it. Secondly, another way is the Amazon affiliate store. Basically what that is a compilation of links that take you to various Magic products and various sellers on Amazon. And if you make any purchases from any of those sellers, a small percentage will come back to help support the channel. I do want to take a moment to say thank you to everybody who engages in that program, even picking up stuff that's not even Magic related a lot of the time. So thank you all for doing that. I always appreciate it. And now let's get into the cards. We're going to start with the top 10 Modern cards that have lost value this week. Coming in at number 10 is Death's Shadow, down 201 to 1118. And talk about a card that was kind of in the wrong place at the wrong time. I mean, this card was on top of the world a few weeks ago. It had one GP Vancouver. It got a lot of coverage on camera that weekend. And because of that, a lot of people went out and wanted to pick this card up and maybe create this deck. Death Shadow itself was not a super expensive card, pretty easy to get a play set of, but as you can see, at that time it spiked pretty hard. Right when it hit the peak of that spike, and a lot of folks had gotten their copies and the hype was starting to subside, all of a sudden they announced this will be reprinted in Modern Masters 2017 as a rare, and you can see what happened to the graph right there. So, especially once the set actually comes out on Friday and packs get open, this card is going to continue to go down. This is probably the card that's being hit the most, not only because it had the reprint, but just because it also was a card that was coming off of a hype spike anyway. So it kind of is what it is for Death Shadow, but it should be very affordable. I see this card probably settling in around $5 or so. Coming in at number 9 is Craterhoof Behemoth, down 228 to 2023. And this one's also interesting. It was a Mythic in Avacyn Restored. Of course, it's being reprinted now as a Mythic in Modern Masters 2017. The fact that it's being reprinted as a Mythic and it's never had another reprint would make you think it should hold its value okay. However, the problem with this card is this isn't a card you want to necessarily have 4 of, right? This is like a 1 of in decks. It's a big casual favorite. You see it in a lot of casual formats. It did get a little bit of play in Legacy and Legacy Elves decks. And just recently, it's starting to show up in Modern Elves decks. And I think that's due to the fact that Saffron Olive had a deck list that was Modern Elves running it about a week ago or so. So I think a lot of folks are starting to think about this card as a Modern card as well. But again, you don't need really more than a copy of the card, so because of that, I think this is going to drop pretty significantly once packs start getting cracked. Coming in at number 8 is Blood Moon from 8th edition, down 231 to 36.66. I don't have too much to say about this one. It's a great card. It sees tons of Modern play. It's in a lot of places. But because it is being reprinted in Modern Masters 2017 as a rare, it is losing value pretty rapidly, and I think that's to be expected, especially as more packs get opened over the course of the next couple weeks. I do want to point out, too, you see a little blip in the graph about a week ago. That you can ignore, basically, and you'll see that on some of these graphs, but that was due to the Crystal Commerce system being updated and slowing down last week, and TCG Player actually shut it down for a little while, so it was basically missing all of that TCG inventory for a very short period of time. So you saw some weird things, but I do want to point out, too, though, that weird blip that happened in the market did result in actual market changes because some people saw changes that maybe weren't actually happening and reacted to that. So kind of is what it is, but you'll see that on a few of these graphs. Coming in at number 7 is Aaron Mesa, down 255 to 43.62. And this, of course, is the first fetch land on the list today. All 5 of the enemy colored fetch lands are being reprinted at rare. So they're all taking a pretty big hit. Now, I don't think they're going to completely bottom out. I don't even think they'll get quite as low as where the Khan's fetch lands are right now. Now, keep in mind, though, the Khan's fetch lands were printed in huge quantities. These are not going to be printed in those same quantities, and the demand is very high still for these regardless. So my thought is I think these will land somewhere between $20 and $40 depending on the individual land. Coming in at number 6, Chalice of the Void from Mirrodin, down 264 to 66.18. This card is going to continue to go up in price over time. It had a really big spike right before the GPs. Pure Steel Paladin was a deck that had a lot of buzz around it, and prior to the GP, a lot of players wanted to pick this up just in case that deck was able to make it to the top tier. It didn't quite get there, but it still brought this into the spotlight, and a lot of players realized, you know what, this is a great sideboard card. And when it started to dry up in some of the marketplaces, people panicked. Card spiked really, really hard. Once the hype subsided, it started to go down, but then we realized it wasn't going to be in Modern Masters 2017. It started to go up again. It is finally stabilizing, but I do think Chalice is going to sit between 60 and 70 for a while. And over a period of time, if they don't find a place to reprint it, it will continue to go up. Coming in at number 5 is Cavern of Souls, down 277 to 47.04. And this is getting a reprint in Modern Masters 2017, but it did get the shift up to the Mythic rarity. So because of that, it will help it keep a little steadier than maybe some of the other cards that we see on the list, but it is still declining relatively rapidly as well. This is in a lot of popular decks like Merfolk, for example. So I do think that there will be a lot of players looking for it. The Mythic rarity will keep it out of players' hands a little more so than some of the other cards we're seeing at rare. And because of that, I don't think this will completely bottom out at this point. I could see it maybe getting somewhere to the $20 to $30 range before it stabilizes. Coming in at number 4 is Verdant Catacombs, down 345 to 56.14. So this is our second of the fetch lands that we see on the list today. Very similar path as Aaron Mesa. Coming in at number 3, we got the trifecta here. All 3 versions of Tarmogoyf. The Modern Masters version down 280 to 115.45. The Modern Masters 2015 version down 329 to 109.99. And the Future Sight version holding the steadiest, but down 360 this week to 135.53. So, with Tarmogoyf being reprinted yet again now in Modern Masters 2017, it's starting to bring the prices down a little bit. As a matter of fact, I know I said I don't want to go into Modern Masters 2017 prices, but you can get these pre-ordered right now for the new version for $80 to $90. That's actually pretty reasonable for Tarmogoyf at this point. And because of that, you are seeing the others decline in value to start to get a little bit closer to that price point. Now, the graph you see on the screen here is actually the Future Sight version, which has declined the least amount. But the Modern Masters versions of the card have gone down relatively sharply since the announcement that it was being reprinted. Unlike cards like Liliana the Veil or Snapcaster, which I think most sellers expected would be reprinted in this set, this one took a few off guard. A lot of folks thought, well, this won't get reprinted 3 times in a row, especially if they're putting Liliana in the set. And they put it in there, and that surprised some people, and all of a sudden the market started to shake up a little bit around this card. Now, Liliana, for example, you didn't see that much of a shake-up. She has declined, of course, but she has been declining over the last few months because of the expectation she'd be there. This card, not as much, and it's really starting to take a hit right now. I expect these to continue to take a hit, especially once the packs hit the marketplace and actually get opened, and players can actually find these cards out there in the wild. Values will start to drop even more so on this card going forward before they stabilize. Coming in at number 2 is Karn Liberated, down 383 to 70.47. This is the new Phyrexia version, and Karn has actually been extremely healthy recently. You can see from the graph here. He spiked really hard, and the main reason is the meta changed quite significantly with the loss of Gitaxian Probe, and Tron just became a better deck, and now the Eldrazi Tron versions are actually very, very popular right now. A lot of players kind of scrambled to try to pick up this card recently, and it has spiked real hard. It didn't help that it also is not a card that's being reprinted in Modern Masters 2017 either. Now, The reason it went down a little bit this week is just snapback. It just had such a huge spike. You expect a little bit of snapback after something like that happens. We're seeing it now. But I really don't see Khun dropping a whole lot more, quite honestly. I think he'll go down a little bit, but this is easily a $65, $70 card if they don't find another place to reprint it at some point soon. And finally, coming in at number 1 is Scalding Tarn, down 481 to 64.57. And this is the last fetch land of the day, obviously. And the reason this one lost the most value is because it was holding the most value. And same thing with Verdant Catacomb being the second largest one. So typical results, and this one will fall a little steeper because it had a higher place to fall from. Alright, let's talk about the cards that are hot right now in Modern. And as you guessed, you're not going to see a whole lot of cards here that were reprinted in Modern Masters 2017. These are cards that players are perhaps thinking of picking up now that they can get a hold of some of the other components of certain decks at a more reasonable price. They're going to want to go out there and try to finish off the deck, and some of these cards are getting a nice little bump due to that fact. So looking at number 10, Dark Confidant, up $2.07 this week to $43.26. This is the original Modern Masters version. And this card had a little bit of a lull for a while, and perhaps it's partially due to the fact that it was reprinted in both Modern Masters, even if it was Mythic. But it is also seeing more play now in Modern. I think maybe more now than ever. And not just in Jund decks either. It's actually in a number of different decks. You'll also notice on the graph it did have one of those unnatural spikes due to the issue about a week ago, so you can kind of ignore that. But even so, this card is going up at a nice rate, as you can tell by the graph there. Coming in at number 9 is All Is Dust for Modern Masters 2015, up $2.27 to $13.58. Another card that's a key component in those Eldrazi Tron decks, and as you can see from the graph, is going to remain very healthy as those decks are going to remain popular, I think, for some time to come. And until Wizards finds another place to reprint a card like this or Karn, I think that deck is going to become more and more expensive and perhaps out of the price range for more and more players as time goes on. This card also sees play in Legacy in the colorless Eldrazi decks too, so that's going to contribute a little bit to its value. Coming in at number 8 is Leyline of Sanctity, and this is the Modern Masters 2015 version, up $2.44 to $19.22. Another card that's just a huge sideboard card and doesn't have to be in a white deck either. It protects you against discard effects, protects you against burn. It just does a lot of different things in the format that you're looking to do out of your sideboard. So again, this is another card that just kind of needs a reprint, and I'm not really sure where it's going to show up, but until it does, it will continue to creep up. Coming in at number 7 is Eldrazi Temple, and this is the Rise of the Eldrazi version, which was a rare, up $3.02 to $11.73. Now, you can get some cheaper versions of this card. It was in Modern Masters 2015 as an uncommon, and it was also in a dual deck. But you can see from the graph here, this card is actually spiking pretty hard, and you probably guessed the reason why. Eldrazi Tron, yet again. Yes, it does see play in other places too, in Legacy and such, but Eldrazi Tron really driving this one. Coming in at number 6 is Doubling Season, both versions. The Modern Masters version up $2.37 to $62.97, with the Ravnica version going up $3.04 to $64.36. This is a card that doesn't see a whole lot of Modern play. There is a fringe deck out there, Doubling Planeswalkers, that will play it. However, for the most part, this is just a great casual card that a lot of folks just want to pick up for Commander or Cubes or things like that. And it's a card that just doesn't seem to stop. I mean, take a look at the graph here. Again, you did have that weird anomaly a week ago. Ignore that. But other than that, this card has steadily increased over time, and it's actually a very natural and very healthy increase, which means it's definitely not unstable. It will certainly keep its value. Coming in at number 5 is Chalice of the Void again. This time it's the Modern Masters version, and this one's going up $3.36 to $64.99. So we already talked a little bit about what's going on with this card, but basically the reason this version is going up and the other one was going down, they're just simply meeting in the middle. Number 4 is Ancestral Vision from Time Spiral, up $3.37 to $53.43. This card did get a reprint in a dual deck a long time ago, shortly after it was in Time Spiral, but since then, no reprints for this card. There is some light speculation that it could show up in the dual deck that releases on March 31st, because we know one of the face cards plays really well with suspend cards. So normally I would say that wouldn't be the case, because the cards just almost too valuable right now to include in a casual product like that. When Wizards creates casual products like the dual decks, their intention is to grow the player base. You put those into your Walmarts, your Targets, you get people to pick them up and learn Magic and start to play with friends and stuff like that. And if you put cards that are too valuable in there, they get hoarded or picked up by resellers or picked up just by people that already play the game, and they never get to their intended target. So yes, they do still get the sales, but if the intended target isn't getting this product, then you don't get game growth. So this isn't the type of card you want in a dual deck. The problem is when they're creating the dual deck, the card was actually valued a lot lower. So I guess we'll wait and see. We will get the actual deck list this week, probably by Friday at the latest, and I'll do a video on that, and we'll know for sure pretty soon. If it does show up in there, yes, this card will go down in value. If it doesn't show up in there, then it will continue to climb. Coming in at number 3 is both versions of Fulminator Mage. Modern Masters 2015 version up $2.36 to $31.07, with Shadowmoor up $3.71 to $37.62. So this card spiked really hard last week when people figured out it wasn't going to be a Modern Masters 2017. However, I will say, even though when you go from day to day, from the last 7 days, it has increased in value, over the last 48 hours or so, it has started to come down. And you will notice that you'll get that because there has to be a snapback when there's a spike that steep, right? And that's what we kind of intended. That's what's happening. It's not going to go back down to anywhere near it was before the spike, but it is going to go down a little bit over the next few weeks. And I see this card at least starting to stabilize at this point, if nothing else. But again, if it doesn't find a place to be reprinted over time, it will continue to increase and get back up to the peak of the spike, probably within a few months, I'd say. Number 2, Mox Opal. Both versions are on here. Scars of Mirrodin up $3.07 to $62.96, with Modern Masters 2015 up $4.68 to $61.60. So there's a lot going on with this card recently. It was in the spotlight for a lot of brewers that were trying to push the Purestale Paladin deck into the top tier. Didn't quite get there, but you know what? This card is still real healthy. It's in decks like Lantern Control and Affinity, which are very, very good right now in the format. Not to mention the Play It Season Vintage and other places. The tricky part with a card like this is really, where do you reprint it to try to control its value? I mean, recently we saw Masterpiece, but I wouldn't really count Masterpieces or From the Vaults or Judges promos as a reprint that's going to help get more copies into players' hands. It creates a few copies, but it's really more of a high-end option for collectors or players that just like the real premium cards to put into their deck, stuff like that. For this card to really stabilize, you need to find a place to print it, like Eternal Masters maybe a year from now, or 2 years from now in another Modern Masters, or maybe in a future summer set, like a Conspiracy type set. You might be able to work it in there, but there's just not a lot of options due to its price and due to the fact that it has Metalcraft, which kind of makes it a very niche card. And because of that, buyers have a lot of confidence in this card. They don't feel like the value is going to go down. They don't really see a reprint being imminent, and they're very comfortable investing in this card without feeling like something's going to blindside them and it's going to go down in value really soon. Finally, coming in at number 1, Crucible of Worlds, up $5.35 to $62.10. This is the 10th edition version, and this card is getting more and more spotlight recently. Not only the fact that it's being targeted because it wasn't reprinted in Modern Masters 2017, I mean, that's probably a big part of it, but also it's seeing more modern play now than ever. In the past, we thought of this as more of a casual card, a vintage card, maybe a legacy card, but you didn't put it high on the list of modern cards. But nowadays with Lantern Control and Eldrazi-tron, guess what? This card is actually sought after by a whole new group of players, and that's going to result in a pretty big price increase. We're already seeing it happen, but I think this is going to get a lot worse, again, if they don't find a place to reprint this card. I think we will see this card maybe within the next year or so. Now that Damnation's been reprinted and the Enemy Fetches have been reprinted, this is kind of like one of the next ones that's hanging out there. There's a couple that come to mind, but this is definitely one of them. And I feel like maybe the next Eternal Masters will see this show up. I think it's definitely on Wizards' radar. So because of that, it's a little bit of a shaky card to pick up. You may overpay at some point, but at the same time, if you need it for one of those decks, whether it's one of the vintage decks I was mentioning, or for most people, one of those modern decks, you might have to pay it because it's just going to go up at this point. Having said that, that is the special edition of the Market Watch. We will be back with another special edition next week to look at the actual values of Modern Masters 2017, as long as everything looks stable. We'll also be here Saturday with our regular episode of the Market Watch. And like I said, we'll have a couple boxes, too, of Modern Masters to open, hopefully sooner than later. So until next time, hey, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible by the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.